again. Today I'm going to continue where we left off yesterday. So if you haven't seen part 1 of how to make this mitered square blanket, go ahead and watch part 1 first. I think I'm actually going to turn this into a playlist so that you can find all of the videos in one spot. But right now all I have is part 1 complete, and this is going to be part 2. So yesterday we actually knitted this mitered square, and this is the very first square of our mitered square blanket that we're going to be making. I used a worsted weight yarn and size 9 needles because it won't be as stiff. It makes it a little more drapey, but you can use whatever size needles you want, whatever yarn you want. My blanket that I did, well, this is actually still a work in progress. I've still got tons of ends to weave in, and I've only got, it's only, let's see, how many squares deep is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 to 5 squares deep because I've started on the 5th row. But I've been using sock yarn for this blanket and size 4, US 4 needles, which is 3.5 millimeters. But for this one, for the example that I'm doing in this tutorial, we're using worsted weight yarn and size 9 needles. That's US 9, which is 5.5 millimeters. So that's what we're using. So after you've watched part 1, you should have completed your first square, and then at the end I had you knit a second square, so you probably would have rewound if you didn't remember how to do it, or if you didn't know how to do it, and rewatched the video to make your second square. So for this video, we're going to need 2 squares that are already complete. Alright, so I've got my third color here. I picked light colors so it would be easy to see. I've also got my iced coffee here because it is very hot here in southern Nevada. So yeah, I'm in the cold coffee mood. So we'll be drinking iced coffee this morning. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start by picking up stitches. Now this is the way that they should look when you've done your squares. This is where we bound off and ended the square with this piece of yarn at the top. And if you slipped the first stitch and knit through the back stitch, as I had mentioned in the previous video, you will have an edge that looks like this. So that makes it super easy to pick up stitches. And we're going to be picking up 15 stitches along this edge, and then 15 on this edge to connect them together. Now if you don't have 15 of these little V's, don't worry about it. You can always fudge a little bit and pick up an extra one at the end. I usually, well, sometimes I go ahead and count to see how many V's I see. Like right now I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Was that all I see? And that's if I count this tiny little area right here. So I'm actually going to start right there. That's going to be the first pickup. And what I do is I just take this yarn, grab it with my fingers back here, and it's kind of tricky and it might be a little difficult at first, but you need to pull it through like this and keep it on your needle. And I like to take this end, the loose end, and kind of wrap it a couple times. So I'll let it hang, and then when I pick up the second stitch right here, I'll go ahead and do that one first, and then I'll show you what I mean. So I pick up the second stitch. You're going to leave these like this on the needle and give this a little tug so that that doesn't get loose. But now that we've got, you see this? We've got our second pickup stitch. I'm going to take that strand and cross it over like this before I pick up the next one, and that kind of anchors it in place. So we're going to pick up the next stitch, and you see this little strand back here that kind of keeps it held. So we're going to go ahead and pick up the rest of these 15 stitches along this row. That's 4, and you want to get in behind both strands. Go under the V. There's 5. There's 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. Let's see what we got. 12, 13, 14. We're gonna pick this tiny V up at the bottom to make it 15. So you just kind of got to keep track. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and you see that tiny little V there? We're going to still go ahead and get that. Make it 15. So you want 15 on each side. So you should now have 15 picked up stitches. Let's see, there's 5, 10, 15. I'm using a circular needle, but you can use a long straight needle if you want to. You just need to have a needle long enough that you can get all 30 stitches on it. So next, now remember the way your spine little ridges go, because when we pick up the stitches on this one, we want the squares to be side by side like this. So that means we're going to pick up along this edge. So if you want all of your ridges vertical, you need to pick up stitches along this edge. So we're going to turn it like this, and we're going to start picking up on this edge, and I'm going to pick up way down here at this first little V, that little tiny one right there. One, 2, oh, my yarn's trying to roll off the table. Let's get some more pulled out and just lay it back there. And I'm just using acrylic yarn for this tutorial. You can use any kind of yarn you want. The sock yarn that I used is mostly wool, leftovers from shawls and socks and such. But you can use any kind of yarn. This acrylic is really soft and doesn't feel bad, so I may end up doing another blanket with this. It's going to go much faster than my sock yarn did, that's for sure. Alright, so there's 3, 4, 5. No, Chase, you're okay. My dog's laying on the floor next to me. He heard a truck drive by. It never fails. If he hears something, he has to bark. Good watchdog. He's a very good watchdog. He's my rescue pup. Actually, both of them are. They're both my rescue pups. I have a Chihuahua, and then Chase, that's laying next to me, is my cattle dog. And they're both about 8 years old. So, they're my babies. They're my fur babies. I've got 2 human babies that are both in college. All right, let's count and see how many we've got so far. There's 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's going to work out just right. And there's 15. Now let's double check. We want to make sure we've got 30 stitches, and look, it should look like this. Okay, so we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. All right, so next we're going to turn the work, and we are going to knit across this side, but when we get to the center, we're going to pick up that running stitch in the center. That white strand right there is going to become our 31st stitch to make us have 31 stitches. So this is just going to be a normal knit. Let me take a drink first. Oops. That was a little slurp. Gotta have my coffee in the morning. So we're gonna go ahead and knit across. I'm not doing any of this part in time lapse because I want you guys to see exactly how to start connecting the squares together. So we're just gonna knit across until we get to the middle. So what are you guys working on? I guess we could turn this into a little bit of a whip and chat while I'm teaching. Let me know in the comments what you guys are knitting, other than this mitered square blanket, because I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're probably starting your very first, or or maybe you've knit some before and you want to try a different technique or method like the one I'm doing. All right, so now you see we're in the middle. What we're going to do is we are just going to take this strand in the middle and we're going to pick it up. We're going to twist it this way. We're going to twist it this way, and we're going to come in behind the loop and pop it onto that needle, and it should look like this. You should have a little X there with the strand from behind coming in front. Now we're going to go ahead and knit the rest of the way across. And see, once you do that, you don't have that gapping strand right there, and you've got your extra stitch, and that's where we're going to start decreasing on the other side. Those 3 center stitches is where we always do our decrease. So when we turn the work, whoops, I just grabbed it because it was getting a little tight. Once we get done here and we turn the work, you should recognize where you are from what we did yesterday in the tutorial. Now be a little careful when you get here, because remember that strand was loose and we just kind of tucked it in and anchored it down, so you don't want it to come loose. So after we knit those last 2 stitches, that last one's going to be a little loose, and you just want to give it a little tug. You see how it just snugged it up there? And from now on it should be okay. We just got to make sure it stays from unraveling. And you know what I do sometimes, guys? I know a lot of people don't like knotting their yarn, but sometimes I'll just take these 2 strands, the one where we finished off in the last video and this one, and I'll just knot them together, because we're going to have a lot of ends to weave in later anyway, and that knot's really not going to matter. So we're going to turn our work. And now we are going to continue knitting this square just like we made the first one. We're going to have the yarn in front and we're going to slip the first stitch purlwise, bring the yarn back between the needles to the back. That's what keeps this little clean little edge here where you can pick up stitches. So after we slip that first stitch, we're going to knit to the center 3 stitches. So we're actually going to knit 14 stitches. This is the first one. The one we slipped is actually counted as the first stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now we are at the center 3 stitches. You should have one connected to the square on the right, the center one that we just made, and one connected to the square on the left. Now this works with the 31 stitches that we have. You can use any odd number of stitches that you want. You just need to knit to the center 3 stitches. So when we get to the center 3 stitches, we're gonna slip the first 2 knitwise. So we go in under both stitches, slip them over to the right hand needle, knit the next one, and then we are going to take those 2 stitches that we just slipped. Oop, if I can get them. It's kind of hard to do looking at the camera. I'm looking at my hands now. So we go in under both stitches that we just slipped, and we're going to pass them over that knit stitch that we did. And then we knit on across to the end. But remember, I need more yarn. Hang on, guys. But remember, when we get to that last stitch, we always knit it through the back loop. And that is how you get that clean edge on the other side. Acrylic and bamboo doesn't really work that great together. That's why it's a little sticky. I have to keep pushing to get the yarn up the needle. But I couldn't find my metal needles. I'm still unpacking, guys. If you didn't know, I recently moved here to the Las Vegas Valley from Santa Cruz, California. So I am still a little disheveled and swimming in boxes, yarn all over the house, everything. I just set up bookshelves. If you guys haven't seen that video, I just bought some bookshelves from IKEA and I started setting up my library. And I may have to move all my knitting books to another shelf because they take up all the way across the room. They take up the 4 bottom shelves. And I'm running out of space. Okay, we're at the last stitch, so we're going to knit it through the back loop. Oops. Okay. So let me push that down so I can show you, bend it a little better. Now you can see how it's taking shape. We're going to keep knitting back and forth to form our 3rd square. I'll go with you guys a couple more times and then I'll let you complete that square before we move on and start adding another one. I knit this blue one last night after I did the video. After we made the pink one and I logged off, I got the video edited and uploaded, and then I sat down and I knit this blue one so I'd have my 2nd square too. So we're going to slip the first one purlwise. We do that every time on the front and the back. And then we bring it between the needles to the back. Like I said, that keeps that V. Because if you didn't do that, if you were holding the yarn like this, I'm just going to show you this really quick. If you were holding the yarn like this and you brought it to the back after you slipped that stitch, look at the edge. It's going to have a bump. And you don't want that bump there. You want it to just be all V's. So that's why we don't want to go around on the outside. We take it between the two needles to the back that way. And then we're going to knit. And since this is the wrong side and it's the back of the work, we are just going to knit all the way across, and then we're going to knit the last stitch through the back loop. Alright, now we're at the very last stitch, so we're going to knit it through the back loop once again. Getting our V's going on the edges. We're going to turn the work. And since the last time we knit 14 to the center and then we did our double decrease, this time we're going to knit 13 to the center and do our double decrease. So once again, on every row we slip the first stitch purlwise, bring the yarn to the back, and that counts as the first stitch, so don't forget. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sticky yarn, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're at the center again. And the next time we do a double decrease, we're going to knit 12 and then do it. The next time it'll be 11 and then do it, and so on and so on. So we're at the center. We're going to slip the first 2 stitches knitwise together, knit the next stitch, and then we're going to pick those 2 up together, pass them over that knit stitch. Then we're going to finish knitting all the way across. And don't forget, when we get to the end, knit that last stitch through the back loop. Then we're going to turn the work, and we're going to do like before, where we slip the first stitch purlwise, knit all the way across. And then when we get to the end of the back side as well, we're going to also knit that last stitch like this through the back loop. So we're going to do that. I think this will be the last row that I do on camera. And then I will let you guys complete yours. Slip purlwise. Knit all the way across to the last stitch. Once again, this is the wrong side row, so it's only knit, no decreases on the wrong side row. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video after I get this row done, let you guys complete knitting your square, and I will be back after I complete mine, and we will finish finish off the top of the square together. I'll probably come back when I have 5 stitches left on my needle. I'll probably eat lunch before I come back and finish this video. And hopefully I'll be able to get this edited and uploaded by this evening, just like I did the video yesterday. I was still recording at like 7 o'clock last night. I'm getting a tangle right here. I bet you guys can see that. Good thing I'm almost to the end of this row, so I can untangle it. But I was so surprised, guys. I got the video part 1 uploaded last night before I went to bed. And when I woke up this morning, it already had 80 views. So that motivated me to definitely get up and start working on part 2, because I don't want you guys to have to wait very long to get your blanket going. So we did just knit that last stitch through the back loop. You'll be turning it again. And like I said, go ahead and complete this square. Since we did, we knit across 13 last time. I believe that's right. This time we're gonna, yeah. So since we knit across 13 last time, this time you're gonna slip 1 purlwise, and that counts as 1, and it's gonna be 12 stitches to the center. Then you're gonna do your double decrease, slip these 2 knitwise together, knit this one, and then pass these 2 over that one. Then you're going to finish knitting across, knit the last one through the back loop, you're going to turn, and just keep going. Remember, it's always knit on the back side with no decreases, and on the front side you're always going to do 1 stitch less to your center, do your double decrease, finish knitting, and knit that last stitch through the back loop. So I'll be back when I have about 5 stitches left on the needle. And we will finish this square together, and I will show you guys what we're going to do next. Alright guys, we are back. And I've got 5 stitches left. So I knit until I had 5 stitches left. I did my double decrease. I turned and went ahead and knit across the back side. So now I'm ready for the next decrease. And we are going to slip the first stitch purlwise, and then we're already to the center 3 stitches. So we're going to knit those 2, or not knit them, but we're going to slip those next 2 stitches together to the right hand needle, knit the next one, slip those 2 back over the knit stitch, if I can get my fingers to work right again. And then we're going to knit the last stitch through the back loop. Now we're down to 3 stitches. So we're going to go ahead and turn. So I had my lunch, and now I'm back to finish this video. We're going to slip the first stitch purlwise. And then I'm actually going to just knit the next one, knit the next one through the back loop, and turn again. And to finish this square off, I'm just going to slip the first stitch purlwise, and then we're going to knit the last 2 together. And then I just pass that slip stitch over. Pull a loop up. We're going to cut the yarn here. Just cut the yarn about there. And then continue pulling the loop up. And tighten it, and there you have it. We have connected our 3rd square and it has also at the same time connected the first 2 squares that we did. So now this video is already pretty long, but what I'm going to do is show you how to continue, and I will probably be back with a 3rd video within the next few days. But this is the basic idea of the squares for your mitered square blanket. You'll want to knit several more squares so that you have as many as you need for the width of whatever you're making, whether it be a shawl, scarf, blanket. And then we're going to connect all of those together by joining more squares on the 2nd row, just like we did here. So I'm going to knit some more squares. You would actually add the next square right here once you knit it, and as I said before, you can see the tutorial for that very first square we did in part 1. And so you'll knit some more squares, single squares, and just keep adding them on until you have the width that you want. By adding the next square here, you'll join those, you'll join it to these by adding another square like we did here. You'll pick up stitches along this side and along the side of the next square. And then you'll continue to knit another square here, just like we did right here. I really hope that's making sense, guys. So once you get a little structure that looks like this with 3 squares connected, you are actually well on your way to starting your mitered square blanket. As I said, you'll just keep adding on to it. So go ahead and add as many squares as you want to get your width done, and get them connected with a 2nd row like we did here. And I will be back in the next video to show you how to start the 3rd row, because on the 3rd row we won't be joining single squares. We'll just be adding on, and instead of creating a stitch in the middle for those double decreases, we'll be picking up a single stitch in the middle from the points. So stay tuned for the next video and I'll show you guys how to do that. So if you guys have any more questions or want any more videos showing you how to do certain things, let me know. This is the blanket, like I mentioned before, that I'm working on, that I've been working on for a while in the sock yarn. And as you can see, the bottom edge will be jagged, it'll be zigzaggy. And say you started here, so there's the first 2 squares we did, and then you added on a square here. Actually, let's go to the end. That'll make it a little easier to understand. But so at this point, you've got what looks like this, right? So I'll probably in the next video show you how we can keep going in this direction, because you're going to want it to go up. You're going to want to have a straight line going up, right? Because if we keep adding on to the left and just joining in the middle by adding squares between each one, it would be like this on the end. So in a few days I'll come back in the next video and I will show you how we would actually build higher by adding more squares on the edges as well. Because if we kept doing what I told you by just knitting another square and then adding one here to join them together, adding another square, and then putting one here to join them together, you're going to have peaks and valleys. You're going to have 2 rows of squares, but it's going to still be like this on the end. So I'll come back and show you how we start the next row, where we would actually cast on 15 stitches. You're going to just cast on 15 stitches and then pick up 15 stitches, and then you'll go back and forth to get this side built. And then you'll keep going the way we did by you know, adding another square here, and then adding another square between those two. You just keep building on and building on. So I really hope that makes sense, guys. But like I said, this video has gone on quite a while. It's probably going to be at least 30 minutes or longer this time. So I'm going to end the video here. Let me know if you guys have any more questions, but after today you should have a piece that looks like this. And like I said, go ahead, knit some more squares, put your next one here, and then add in a square here just like we did in this video, where we picked up along this edge and created that square. You'll make a single square, and then you're going to pick up along this edge, pick up along this edge, and then add another square here. But thanks for watching, guys, and I will be back in another video very soon. Happy knitting, and don't forget to let me know down in the comments if you have any more questions. I'll see you soon. Bye.